Hi, I'm Chad with Move for Guitar. This lesson is from our series, How to Read Music for Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about tempo. First off, if you like all the diagrams for this series, including the diagrams for this lesson, you can download our free e-guide, How to Read Music for Guitar. But I am working on it right now as I'm filming this lesson, so it might not be available as you're watching this lesson. If it is available, a link will pop up on the screen that'll allow you to download it. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to download it when it is available. This is part 13 from our series, How to Read Music for Guitar. If you'd like to go back and start at the beginning, you can click the link on the screen. So in the last lesson, we talked about time signature, and I explained that the top number represented how many beats there were per bar, and the bottom number represented what note got the beat. So in 4/4 time, which is the most common time, it's even called common time, there's 4 beats per bar, and the quarter note gets the beat. So written in the most simple way, you could write 4 quarter notes, that would fill up 1 bar. Every one of those quarter notes would be a beat. So if you set your metronome, that would be where the clicks are, or that would be where you tap your foot. So that gives us a lot of information for playing a piece of music, but it doesn't tell us how fast or slow we should play that piece. So if you were to look at your screen right now, you'd have your clef sign, then you'd have your time signature, and that would tell you how many beats per bar, what note gets the beat, and that would give you a lot of information. But you could play what's written right here really fast, really slow, at a medium pace. There's nothing indicating what speed you should play this. And when you're talking about speed in music, as far as how fast or slow you should play something, that's called tempo. And in music, tempo is measured by what's called BPM, or beats per minute. So that would mean if you took 60 BPM, or 60 beats per minute, every beat would be 1 second. So if we were to look back at this in 4/4 time, if this was 60 BPM, every one of these quarter notes would last for 1 second, and that's actually really slow. If you were to speed it up to 120 BPM, every one of these quarter notes would last half a second. So for example, I have a metronome here, and a metronome just clicks the beats, so it lets you keep track of every beat, and in 4/4 time, that's keeping track of the quarter note on the beat. So if I set it for 60 BPM, it would sound like this. Every one of those clicks would be right on the quarter note beat, and so on. If I sped it up to 120, you'd be able to hear how much faster that is. So it's twice as fast. So now every one of those quarter note beats would be going this fast. And music doesn't always tell you how fast it is. A lot of times it's up to the musician to decide how fast they want to play it, which is really based on feel a lot of times, or the mood they're in. Sometimes you want to play fast, sometimes you want to play slow. But other pieces of music do specify, and even when it specifies, it's more of a general idea of how fast to play. It's usually not super strict where you have to play it at the tempo that it's telling you exactly, unless it's been written for a certain situation and all the musicians know to play it at this speed. But a lot of times it's more up to everyone to agree exactly how fast they want to play it. And the way you'd find it marked on a piece of music in most modern music would look like this. Something like where it would represent the beat or the quarter note equals 80, which just means that it equals 80 BPM. So it's pretty self-explanatory. If you saw that the quarter note equals 80 BPM in this piece of 4/4 music, you would know exactly how fast to play this. But in more classical music or more traditional music, you might see an Italian word like this, like allegro. And that's really giving you a range of how fast to play it that was originally intended to be played. And there's quite a few Italian words, and they all have a swing of how fast to play. For example, largo, 40 to 60 BPM, and so on. So now that's telling the musician or the conductor, whoever is in charge of this, that this piece of music should fall somewhere around 40 to 60 BPM, and so on. For allegro, that would be 120 to 168, or presto would be 168 to 200, etc. But that's more in traditional type music. If you're playing like off a jazz sheet or something else, more modern music, you might not run into these words. It might just show you the actual BPM, like I just showed you, with the quarter note equals whatever. And it's not always a quarter note. It could be another note value that equals whatever BPM. Or, for example, on a lot of jazz sheets and different types of music, you might see something like this. Something that says very slow, or ballad, or medium, medium swing, up tempo. There's a lot of descriptive words to describe, and that's really just telling you the feel and giving you an idea for how fast or slow that it was intended to be played. As well as, like I said, the feel of the song. For example, medium swing. Swing is a descriptive word for what it should feel like. But in a lot of music, like I said, it's up to the musician or whoever to decide what they want to do with that piece, and a lot of liberties are taken. So there's a lot of times in like jazz where something that was originally intended as a ballad is played as an up-tempo song, and all of a sudden it's become a really fast song, or vice versa. So in most situations, the description for the tempo isn't locking you in. A lot of times it's up to you to decide where you want to go with it. But the most important thing to understand for now is BPM, that represents beats per minute. So if you know where the beat is, for in 4/4 time the quarter note is the beat, then you know that whatever the BPM is set at, that's how fast those quarter note beats are going by. So if it's 60 beats per minute, every quarter note is 1 second, and so on, like I explained. And you're going to run into BPM all the time, whether you're reading music or not, so it's really important to understand that concept. So that's an explanation of tempo. Go ahead and move on to the next lesson where, like I said, I'm going to talk about counting music. And be sure to download the e-guide. All the diagrams are in there. And be sure to subscribe because we had at least one new lesson every day.